Austin, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
It's good to be here, bro. I've heard so much about it, and I'm excited. Let's get it.
Dude, I am just, really grateful for you. Just even taking the time out of your busy day, your busy life. This is a crazy season of life for a lot of us, but especially you with everything you have going on. So I just want to first off say thank you for coming on. And I'm really pumped to share more of your story and talk about some of the cool things that God is doing in your life and hopefully can impact and encourage other people.
Dude, one of the things that we've always said in the house was, like, if it impacts the kingdom, then stop everything you're doing and give it some time. And I've seen everything that you've been doing with this stuff, and don't even, it's not even a question. It's like, of course, let's do it.
Let's go, man. That means a lot to me, man. And I'm really excited too, even with, what I feel like God's put on my heart with this podcast, to be able to do more in-person episodes. This dynamic is so much more fun and enjoyable than over the screen. Obviously, I'm grateful for both methods, but this is really special.
Dude, it's fun.
Let's go.
I'm excited.
Well, dude, before we dive into your story, which I'm really excited to unpack and hear more about, your childhood and what led up to where you are right now, I want to know, do you think it was an accident that God gave you the last name Armstrong?
Checking my sleeve.
For the YouTube, they can see the.
I don't know. I have no clue. I think words have power, and I think it's been spoken so much over the times. You get where I'm going over with that. You know what I mean?
No, I had to give you a hard time. I love it. It's fitting though, because you're incredibly.
I appreciate
fit,
it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's super cool. And getting a chance last weekend, guys, we got to go to your dad's house and work with your dad on a really project, which was so fun. And I'm sure we'll talk about him more in a little bit, but he's a very fit dude. So I can tell there's some genetic goodness from him as well.
Dude, it's all Jesus, man. It's all Jesus. That's what my dad will say too, because my dad is like 60, I think he's 67.
Which is crazy.
And
he looks 40.
I know, he literally looks 40, because when Doug was over, he was like, yo, or I asked him, I said, Doug, how old do you think my dad is? And he's like, yo, you like 40s, 50, maybe 52, something like that. I'm like, Dad, how old are you? And he's like, 67. Doug's like,
insane.
What? And Doug is super into health and everything too. So he was standing there like asking my dad questions for the next hour. He's like, so what do you do, man? Like, what's your secret? My dad's like, bro, I just work and like eat stuff.
Dude, I've been watching the show, The Blue Zones. It's on Netflix. It's very popular right now, but just the big things they take away, it's not going hard, super hard at the gym or having the strictest diet. It's like just being healthy and active and like, never stopping. And I can tell your dad has a lot of just healthy practices in his life just from that short interaction. But dude is a beast.
Dude, that's that. God's been giving me this word for probably the past like 6 months, where he said consistency equals life, right? Where literally the literal thing that keeps you powered has to have consistency to keep you alive. And my dad has not stopped working ever since he came. So we moved to our property, and the property he lives at now, or we used to live at, in like 2001, and he has not stopped working ever since then. And I keep telling him, I'm like, Dad, you need to take a break. You need to like move. You need to get out of there. But then he's like, bro, this is what keeps me alive. And I'm like, you got a point. I love you so much, and I want you here on this earth a lot longer than this. So you keep doing what you're doing.
I love that, bro. I love that. It's funny too with the Armstrong thing, is you have been a very competitive but also successful arm wrestler in your career so far.
A decent amount of people.
I had an idea for you, bro. And listen, this is just me pitching.
I didn't know this is where this was going. Okay.
No, we won't go super deep here, but it is an idea I wanted to share with you. How cool would it be if you held a celebrity arm wrestling tournament for like charity or something? That'd be so fun. I think you could kill that.
That'd be interesting. Honestly, because that would be really interesting. I feel like
the Armstrong arm wrestling tournament.
I feel like I definitely would get smacked. There's going to be that one sleeper that comes in there and just gets it done. But if it was for charity or for some other thing, I think it'd be super fun.
You can make it fun.
Because my dad was a professional arm wrestler. And so...
Wait, stop.
Yeah. So like...
I did not know that.
Well, that's the reason...
I swear I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like he was a professional bodybuilder, and he arm wrestled. Like that was their thing growing up. And so he taught us. So I grew up arm wrestling, and I've lost once, and it was a bad bet. I got too hungry.
Oh no.
And I got excited. I didn't go through the steps I was supposed to go through, and I lost once. But we just grew up doing it. So I think that would be fun.
Dude,
I think that's a great idea.
We should talk more about that offline. I think that would be really interesting.
No, that would be sick,
especially if you brought in the charity element. But dude, I want to dive into your background. Obviously, there are many people that are familiar with you through social media and what you've been really gracious to put out on yourself and the things that God's put on your heart through content. But I want to peel back some layers and learn more about your childhood and some of the things that I would love to just hear a little bit more about what it was like growing up. I know you're from the area. You're from Florida. What was your childhood like, and how do you think that's kind of, impacted where you are currently?
My childhood was way different than most people's. I know there's a lot of people who were homeschooled, right? But I, for one, was homeschooled. I lived out in the country, literally out in the middle of nowhere. So where we had 10 acres out in the middle of Florida, and it was full of many days not doing school because I didn't really want to do school, and more so building things and being creative and riding horses, and we had animals, and it was a very free spirit lifestyle. And in the middle of that, a dramatic opposite, we grew up doing acting, right? So in the middle of the country boy lifestyle, I had a city boy work, like a city boy job. And so I would go out and do commercials with my dad. It wasn't anything crazy extravagant. It was like Disney commercials and the fun little things. But it was a very free spirited lifestyle. I taught myself how to play guitar and music, and it was just full of creativity. But it definitely set into motion one of my heart's desires was to be creative and be growing and just be the most that I could be in Christ. It definitely impacted that a lot.
It's so interesting. I'm fortunate. We've had on a lot of really awesome guests on the show, and most of them have been high performers, high achievers, but it's so cool to peel back the layers and understand, how did this all start? You didn't just wake up one day with your following or your platform or your abilities or your creativity. It started somewhere and it built on itself. And so hearing more about your childhood and what kind of went into that is interesting. I want to know, how did your parents play a role in that? Because obviously there was decisions that they made intentionally to maybe keep you outside of traditional schooling and do homeschooling, or raise you on a more rural area. How did your parents' interactions with you as a young child or in your childhood impact who you are today, do you think?
It impacted me in a massive, massive way. And one of the biggest things was the patience that they had for everything that we went through. It says in the Bible that patience is a virtue, right? And that stuck with me. And ever since I was little, my mom always was like I was just a really silent kid, right? I really didn't have an opinion or say anything till I was 13, 14 years old. I always would just listen. And through that, no one could really hurt me too much. No one could really my patience was on a different level, because my dad would instill in me you're patient. Wow, you're patient. It's almost like when you're encouraging somebody to be something, even though you only see a little bit of it, you glorify that little bit so that it draws it out of you.
Sure. And
I remember when I was little being really frustrated with creative projects, and I always wanted to be like a carpenter and build things. And when I would get really frustrated, I'd keep working. I'd push past it a little bit. And my dad would notice that little bit of growth in me and be like, wow, you're really patient. I noticed those little things that you've worked through. And my little kid brain was like, I am patient. Whoa. And then I'll my patience was all of a sudden doubled because of the little light that was brought in. And so through my mom and her diligence and tediousness, and my dad and his patience, and allowing us to choose different things, we might have hopped around a little bit. I wanted to play soccer, I wanted to play basketball, baseball, whatever it was. But my dad always was keep trying, keep pushing, keep going, no matter what your circumstance is. And dude, my dad spoke so much into this. No matter what your circumstance is, don't let anything hinder your personality or who you are or your integrity. It is unwavering in the middle of all those things. And them believing in me that much, there is not a time where I look back in my life and I'm like, man, my parents didn't believe in me. Bro, they believed in me so much. And I remember being a little kid. I was like, Dad, when I get older, I'm not going to have any problem with money. I'm not going to have any problem with that. It wasn't in a cocky way. It was just like, I'm so confident in what you've taught me to be and my creativity that I'm not going to have any problem with it. And he's like, you know what? I believe you. He said that. He's like, you know what? I believe you. And it was almost like that. He installed something in me. I threw it back at him, and then he pushed it back another level and pushed me higher.
Wow.
How cool is that?
It's great leadership.
It's great leadership. And he goes, and so if you look at that process from the very beginning, this is also something really good if you're trying to like build somebody up.
Sure.
Because looking at this process changes so very much. And that's why it says build each other up. In the Bible, it says build each other up. Don't tear each other down with words. But he might see something little and say, wow, you're good at that. I might build that up in myself and be like, look, Dad, this is what I said I was going to do and I'm going to do it. He says, you know what? You're right. And I go, he believes in me. I'm taking this thing to another level. It's so very important, that inspiration and that speaking life into people. Bro, it changed a lot. It changed a lot. And I pull on those things. I almost feel like inside of me, I'm big Austin right now. But inside of me, I'm still like my roots are identical to where if you look inside of my spirit, inside of my soul, it's little Austin sitting there pulling from the things that my dad said and pulling on the things that my God gave me when I was little.
Wow. And
drawing from those things.
That is incredible, bro. And it's so cool to hear you explain that with such a genuineness and such a belief. I believe you because of how much you believe in yourself just saying that, you know what I mean? But what's crazy though, none of that matters if you don't have respect for your dad. And so his character is the reason that equation even works. Yes! But the cool thing about it is you have those similar qualities that I'm sure your dad instilled in you, and that the reason you believe in him, because if you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. You know, obviously if I feel like God's called me to do that, but like that's something we should talk about too, because without, you know, your dad being the person he is, giving you that confidence, it wouldn't mean anything if you didn't trust him, if you didn't believe in him, if you didn't have a genuine, like, this dude has my best interest at heart. So that's an interesting element of that as well.
Bro, it's a cycle of life. That is a life-giving cycle right there. Like, you can't have one without the other. For me to have that, you have to have this. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
100%, man. That's really special. I loved hearing about the kind of the impact your parents had on you and how that's transformed you and matured you and giving you just confidence and obviously just life and to continue to build on what you're doing. But growing up in that environment, I'm sure there was a lot of pros and cons, obviously, with anything in life. There was a lot of pros. You learned, you're more hands-on, you're more creative, you had time to be patient. But maybe from a social element, how did that impact you? Because like I know you say you were quiet as a kid, but you were one of the most charismatic, fun to be around, energetic guys. But obviously that probably didn't happen overnight. How did you kind of morph into, you know, the social person you are growing up in that environment?
That is interesting. It's funny because every time you meet somebody, they're like, "Oh, you're a homeschooler? Well, you're not awkward at all." I'm like,
why does that have a negative connotation?
Okay, so the negative connotation is you really didn't get schooling.
Right. Okay.
So homeschooling, it's like there's a quotation mark next to it because it's like, all right, you really didn't get schooling. You just kind of just lived life and there's no school. And in some elements, that is true. There's a lot of different elements of that where I did not get as much schooling, and I used to be super insecure about this. My reading is not the greatest. My writing is not the greatest. My math is not the greatest. So there are elements to that are very, very true. But there are also different sides of it with communication where, yes, we weren't as schooled in books per se, which we still had all of that. There was another element where, well, yeah, we were out in the world. We did acting. We had to communicate with higher level communication with directors and schooling and all of these different things where I used to joke with my siblings and be like, guys, I cannot communicate with somebody my own age. Like, I would rather sit down with a guy in his high level 50s talking about intricate stuff than kids having witty conversation, because I just can't do it. I literally can't do it. But we were able to communicate like on a mature level, but not in the fun way where it's like younger kids. So through those, I think our situation was a little bit different. we didn't just have homeschooling. We were out in the world as well. And the acting happened like 2 to 3 times a week.
Sure.
So yes, we might've been home, but then also we were out at Disney. My dad was an acting coach for 5 years. And so we were all over the place communicating that way and kind of world schooled, as my dad would call it.
Dude, I love that. And so you would say that's where, in acting and the different activities you're involved in, that's where you started to begin building real friendships with people your age and around your age.
Yeah, and all of that kind of communication stuff. But even then I wasn't super like extroverted. Like I was very, very introvert. Not on an awkward level, I just didn't care. I really didn't. Like you have all this drama going on. I'm like, guys, I couldn't care less. I want to go build something. I'll be over here by myself, creating some kind of whatever it is, right? And it wasn't till, and honestly, it made me tired. I was an extrovert. So the more I communicated, I just got tired. And then one day I was like, I'm tired of being tired. So I just started choosing. I literally just started choosing being extroverted and ran. I knew what a muscle was. So I knew that if you put pressure on a muscle, eventually it gets stronger. And so I was an introvert that started working out mentally. And I started just pushing to the boundaries. I'd push to where I'd get dead tired, stop. Wait till I had more energy, push again. Push. Now eventually, I just can't stop talking.
I love that, dude.
It's a lot of energy to put out. But I will say, since I kind of converted over, I am an extrovert with a battery life. To where I will come to the end, and then I want to be myself. And then just relax for a second.
Dude, that's awesome.
But yeah, I just chose it.
I love how you put that, because I think that can be applied to so many things in life. People listening, and I'm sure there are different things that maybe in their life they're like, I'd really love to improve this, but I don't really know how. Sometimes we have to, we try to overcomplicate it. Like sometimes you just have to do it.
100%.
Like literally just boil it down to just like taking one step from the other, and like you said, just chipping away.
Taking what you have. Most people mistake, or most people go through growing the wrong way. You don't need to have all the tools to grow. You don't need to have all the tools to start. You need to take what you have and start now. God says we're not promised tomorrow. How do you know you're going to wake up tomorrow? You don't. Good. You take it for granted. You might not wake up tomorrow. So I learned this in videography a long time ago, which was like the greatest videographers and the greatest minds, they started when they had their $20 digital camera from Walmart and just started filming stuff. When all of these people now have thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment, but they still can't get going. And that's because the mindset is, well, when I have this, then I'll start. When I have that, then I'll start. Just get in the game to get good at it. You have to get in the game to get good at it. And even with live stream, I talk to a lot of people who are like, oh, when I have this backdrop, then I'll start. When I have this all prepared, then I'll go. I'm going to say, no. Live stream is your training ground. That is your boot camp. That's your training ground. You go on there and mess up. You go on there and find out all the different ways to communicate things and find out the different games that work and the different communication skills that are successful. Don't try them off screen and then go to see if they work. That is doubling your time. Just get in the game to get good at it, literally with anything.
I love that, man. It's awesome to listen to podcasts, to read books, to have conversations, but until you're actually in the game applying it, there are just so many things you're never going to pick up or truly learn until you're actually doing it.
100%. I got a little illustration for you. You ready?
I love your illustrations.
Your car broke down. It's broken. The AC doesn't work, hypothetically. Did you ever get that fixed, by the way?
I actually, this is a story that's really relevant because this is my current situation.
But picture your car broke down, and then I'm going to give you two options. Two options on a man that can fix it. Somebody that's been in school for the past 5 years, know the ins and outs of literally everything. Knows everything like on paper about the car. He's never touched the car before. Or a guy who's never been to school, but has been working on those cars for the past 5 years, every day having his hands in it. Not a single part of me is going to be like, oh, I'll take the guy that's on paper. I said, give me the guy that had his hands on it. 100%. I don't care about your degree. I don't care about like what kind of stars you got on Yelp. Like just whatever you got. If you've been in this, working in there on that thing for the past 5 years, give me that guy. Because I'd rather the guy who activated what he learned than the guy who's too scared to jump.
Come on, bro. That's so true. So true, man. I love that. I love that. I want to bring it back a little bit to the friendship element of, you starting to get into acting, you're meeting people. What part of your story, because obviously I'm kind of taking the listeners through your life, your timeline, right? Because obviously I want to get into some of the more recent things you're doing and what God's been doing in your life recently. But at what point did you get introduced to Noah and the people here, and obviously this incredible community that we're currently in? I want to know how that kind of fits into the fold of your story and like your upbringing.
So actually, starting way back, I met...
Because this goes back. This isn't recent.
This goes back way. This goes way back. So our parents all went to the same church for years, and it was Calvary, Orlando. They went to the same church for a really long time. The first ever like mental note I have of meeting them, because we all went to the same church, but we never really met. I remember meeting Allie when she was like 12, and I was 16 years old. And it was a long time ago at like one of these, again, commercials, and they did acting as well. So Noah and I were always the same age, kind of in the same group. When we would get casted for things, all the guys the same age would go out at the same time, right? And so I would go out for most of the same things that Noah would. And so we would just talk every once in a while, maybe once every 2 weeks or something like that. I'd see him at an audition. And that went on for years until I think it went on for like quite a few years until I was 18 years old. And I remember he was 18, just about to turn 19. And he was like, dude, I saw him at an audition. He's like, bro, do you guys want to come to this youth group that we started called Jaywalkers? And I was like, yeah, it sounds really cool. Where's it at? He's like, oh, it's out in this place called Claremont. I was like, bro, I lived there. No way. And so I was like, absolutely, let's go. What day is it? And he's like, it's on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And I'm like, okay, let's try it. Let's go out. And so Wednesday rolled around, and I show up at the youth group, and immediately when I open the door, it's just like 70 people packed into this tiny little room.
Slightly overwhelming.
Yeah, it's really overwhelming. It's like it's really cool. But it felt like 70 people. It was probably more like 20, 25. But the room was really tiny, so it felt like sardines in a can. And as soon as I step in, Mario, Noah's uncle, calls me out. He's like, "Yo, what up, tall man in the back?" I'm like, "Hey, yo!" Like getting called out the first few seconds of being there. And after the service, I remember talking to Noah. He was like introducing me to some of his friends and stuff. And then I was like, yeah, bro, I play guitar. And he's like, dude, you want to play next week? And I was like, sure, why not? I play acoustic. And that literally started the next years upon years after that. Because I'm 25 now, and it started when I was 18. So, you know what I mean?
That's so cool.
And so I joined Guitar Net next week, and I've never left since. And leading all the way up into quarantine, where we all kind of separated for all the stuff that was going on. And Noah had been in social media for a little while, just like doing more things because he was already in that singing kind of realm. And as soon as quarantine hit, we all started kind of taking to the internet like everybody was. And dude, it just set into motion all that you see now. Moving into that, the whole live stream thing, all of that social media stuff.
Bro, that's such a cool story, man. A couple of things to pull from that. One is, how cool is it when God just opens a door and it's just a short process? Like, there was no waiting around. Like, you were thrown right into the deep end.
That's true.
And dude, and these are people that God, I believe, strategically and purposefully put in your life to become a big part of your life. And obviously, this is interesting, bro. I love Craig Rochelle. You know that. A lot of the guys do in the house. But last weekend, he talked about the providence of God and how God will, like, looking backwards is one of the coolest things to do, just to affirm the faith that we have in him, and to say one small decision trickles and affects so much more into the future. And so when you look back and you're like, man, that one small decision led to this, and to our friendship growing stronger. And then that led to us doing social media together. And then that led to God doing, and it's just one thing after another. It's all connected by one decision to be faithful and to do what God called you to do.
Dude,
how cool is that?
1000%. I think the like secular term is called the butterfly effect, where a butterfly is so it is so gentle and so light, but it was like one beat of a butterfly's wings caused like an earthquake, like thousands of miles away because of the wind that it impacts or whatever it is. But dude, I love that so much. I even look back to the day that we went to that audition. I didn't want to go at all.
Really?
It was one of those auditions. It was one of those auditions where I was like, ugh, fine, I'll go on this thing. Like, I'm tired of going out on these things. And when I did, all of this came out of that. And I was like, holy smokes, if you're not where God wants you to be at the right time, God's timing is so perfect. God's timing is perfect. There's very little things on this earth that are perfect. Almost none. Other than the things that he has set into motion, and his timing is perfect. That is why it's so crucial for us to be in that little window, in that little timing, where everything else, we think, oh, this little thing isn't going to matter. But if we're inserting ourselves in that little time pocket, God is like, all right, you just lined yourself up for the next 10 years. The trajectory is perfectly straight of where you need to go.
So good, man.
That's why, oh, dude, it's amazing. Okay, wait. I got to say this. I'm looking up and thinking. I think it was in an airplane when they're choosing a course and setting a course on where they need to go. If they change trajectory of the plane by, I think it's an inch, you will end up miles and miles and miles off of where you are supposed to be.
For sure.
And we think, oh, this little decision right now isn't going to make a difference. This little sin that I dip my toe in right now isn't going to make a difference. This person that I go out with when I'm not supposed to isn't going to make a difference. This thing that I drink right now isn't going to make a difference. It's so little. It's so tiny. Listen, you are turning your trajectory just a little bit away from God. Any decision that you make that is not directing you straight towards him, it's not, bro.
So good.
I'm getting chills.
That's so good, bro.
Your goal should be not sort of looks like Jesus, not kind of is the truth, not as kind of watered down. Because if it is not directly pointed towards him, you're going to end off way the other way. And there's no gray area when it comes down to the very end. It's either heaven or hell. There's no in between. So you are choosing, when you choose things that is not directly pointed towards him, you're choosing hell. I'm going to be honest with you.
Wow.
You're choosing hell. And that's not me condemning you. That's saying, bro, I would not love you. If I really love you, I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is, you better make sure that every decision you make is lined up with him, because I don't want you to fall into that pit. I don't want you to go there. So weigh every decision. The biggest thing the devil's going to try to get you to do, he's going to say, oh man, it doesn't matter. It's a little bit. It's a little something. Just try it. Just taste this.
In the garden.
Look at this.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But when Eve ate that apple, it was a little bite through the trajectory of the entire world off course.
Everything.
We are no different. The little decisions you make will throw your entire bloodline off course if you are not careful, if you are not mindful, listening, following what God has to say.
Man, come on.
That's
bro.
so good.
So good. I appreciate you sharing that. And I want you to touch on, because I think there could be some people listening that are encouraged by that, but there could be some people that might make them a little nervous or scared, just because it's like, oh my gosh, every decision has so much weight and pressure. But the good news is, I think, and I'd love for you to speak on this, is just God doesn't ask us to figure out alone. And that's where I think that's where things can get scary, is when you try to make the decisions independent from God, and you're like, okay, I get it. Like, every decision is so heavy, it could change my path. But like, how am I supposed to know what decision to make? And the good news is,
God literally says in the Bible, I was just reading in Proverbs. So here's how God kind of works. Not kind of, this is how he works. He is the overarcher. He created the entire world. He created you. He created me. He has given us this guide called the Holy Spirit. And through the Holy Spirit, when you accept Jesus into your heart, he is like that. He's that calling card that brings you home, that allows you to get to heaven. Now, along with that, it says it's a she. There is a girl or a woman per se, and it's a she called wisdom. and it talks about it in Proverbs. And when you acquire wisdom, wisdom allows you to have a long and satisfactory life. It brings you to the ultimate life, which means if you call on wisdom, if you ask for wisdom, it'll guide you to all of those right decisions. Wisdom is what guides you and what allows you, and listening to the Spirit allows you to make all these right decisions. Now, you might think, oh man, that's super hard. How do I get wisdom? Is it hard to get wisdom? Well, here's the cool thing about it. No, it's not. In Proverbs, it says, wisdom cries aloud in the streets. What does that mean? Wisdom cries aloud in the streets. And don't quote me on this. I'm paraphrasing because I don't know the exact words, so God forgive me. Wisdom cries aloud in the streets. It preaches at the city gates. Here's what that means. Wisdom is not hiding. It didn't say wisdom is in this pot underneath somebody's sink in the middle of the Amazon. No, it said wisdom cries aloud in the streets, which means, oh, I want wisdom. Let me go out to the front yard. Let me take it out of my mailbox. Let me wake up, step out, and just ask God for wisdom. It is readily available. God says wisdom is here. All you have to do is ask for it. So to answer your question, don't be scared. Don't be scared if that's something you're worried about. Be confident that God gave wisdom to be readily available to you to be able to make these decisions, which means, here's the thing. God has set it up. You have all the tools that you need. You just need to ask for the access. Ask for everything. He says, knock and the door shall be open. He's not lying about that. He's telling the truth. He's been knocking, the door shall be open. If you ask for wisdom, wisdom will be given to you. If you ask for knowledge, knowledge will be given to you. If you ask for grace, God, just please forgive me of my sins. Please give me knowledge. God is the only person that enjoys when somebody is needy. He's the only person that enjoys when somebody is needy. Because like if you had a girlfriend and she's like, oh, I need this. Oh, please help me with this. Oh, please pay for this. Oh, please. You're going to be like, okay, girl, chill. I need to please step back. I need a few seconds. But God's like, yo, ask me. Ask me. You okay? Wisdom? All right, got you. God, please, like I'm hurting inside. Praise you, Jesus. Thank you so much for all that you've done. Call on him, yearn for him, desire him, think on things that are good, upright, righteous, and holy constantly. Pray consistently. That's what he says. He wants you to be needy for that. And if you are needy and almost clingy to Christ, bro, he's going to be like, oh my gosh, this person loves me. I can trust him with more. I can give him direction. If you're like, God, I just need more from you. I desire you. I just need to be with you. God's going to start revealing stuff to you. He's going to start allowing you to make bigger steps, find out which jobs you need to take, find out who you need to pray for, find out what you need to eat to grow, what you need to eat to lose weight. All of these different little things that people are so stressed out about, they forget, yo, I could have just asked. There's been so many times in my life. Sorry if I'm rambling.
No, I love it. I can resonate with this. For sure.
Bro, there's been so many times in my life where I was like, man, I've been searching for hours. Why can't I find like my keys? Why can't I find my wallet back home? And my mom was like, oh yeah, it's right there where it's supposed to be. Why didn't you just ask me? You know I clean up all the time. You know I know where everything's at because I'm mom. I make rounds. That's why I know. And I'm like, oh, so you mean all this time I stressed out, I cursed God, I was mad at my wife, mad at my girlfriend, mad at my boyfriend, mad at all these different things. And this whole time I could have just asked God and said, God, hey, please help me with this. And he's like, there we go. Okay, yeah, here we go. Just keep asking him. Keep asking for wisdom. Cry out for wisdom. And if you're at your breaking point, great. All you got, you got nowhere else to go but up. This is a great place for you to be. You have no other choices but then to ask God, cry out for wisdom. There is no insecurities in this. The more confident you are in just letting it out, even if you have to get alone, scream into a pillow, just be like, God, help me. I'm done. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the car just screaming at God in a help me kind of way. Not I'm mad at God, but just help me.
Surrendering.
I'm tired of running. I'm tired of doing all this stuff. Just please give me wisdom. Give me this, give me that. And all of a sudden he's like, finally you asked me. Okay, there's a peace that passes understanding. You're good now. You're okay. Dude. And I'm like, dang, man, I could have felt like this the whole time.
But sometimes it does take, you to go through that for you to learn that.
Exactly.
And God, allows you to, there's so much you can learn from those experiences too.
Mm-hmm. And most of us have been through it. So
I sure have.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sure I'll continue. But no, yeah, that's amazing. And I appreciate you really diving into that, because I think that's really helpful. And I'm hopeful that someone listening to this can take that, all of it, parts of it, and just apply it to what they're going through in their own life. The other cool thing I was going to point out of what you said earlier was, I don't think people realize how long Jaywalkers has been a thing. Obviously, there's a ton of relevance right now, and there's so many cool things that God is doing with the music and the conference in 2.5 weeks, and it's so fun to see that. But I would love for you to quickly talk on just Jaywalkers as a whole, and how this has been a journey that God has been building into through you guys, and how it's obviously becoming something bigger as of right now.
100%. Oh, dude, I love this. Okay, so first of all, the term jaywalkers, everybody's like, oh man, you crossing the street when you're not supposed to cross. No, it means so it's spelled out JWLKRS. And I'm like, I'm gonna talk to everybody and be like, yo, we should probably change this to something else. I'm about to tell you what it is. But it stands for Jesus walkers, living known and resisting status quo. So basically, we're inspired to inspire other people to walk like Jesus and resist what the world is throwing at them. And that's kind of the basis of it. And this started way back in 2015, where just a small little youth group.
Wow.
And just a group of people. I wasn't there yet, and it was Noah and Mario Medley, and everybody we're just starting off, hungry after God, trying to build stages, learning how to put up lights and all of those things. And it gradually felt like our sporadic paths gradually just came into place and started lining up with our vision that was reaching people and growing this to another level. And so years went by, and as we worked together in this church, we months and months were put into just us being at the church. Whether it was designing something, writing something, setting up music, setting up lights, tearing down things for the other churches, whatever it was almost like God was cooking something up. And it was almost like the training ground for what was to come. And so it was a youth group, and then turned into a church. And then we were in this church where we did church services for a while. And I think one of the things that people mistake God's calling for is something that is in a box where, all right, this is the one thing that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. When God clearly says seasons are a thing. There's a time to dance. There's a time to mourn. There's a time to be joyful. There's a time for everything. Seasons are built to create a vibrant lifestyle. They're designed to be that way so that life is incredible. And so we shifted from youth group to church, and people might think, oh, did the youth group fail? No, just the season we were in for a youth group turned into a church.
Sure.
And now we were in this church mode for a while where we did a ton of different things. And then eventually COVID hit and dropped us all into this online state. We're all like, what are we going to do? And then the people are like, oh, well, did the church fail? No, seasons change. So that now the calling has switched into something else. And then eventually after the church, now we moved to online teaching, to where we had Zoom calls of 400 or 500 people all coming together every week.
Incredible.
Having Bible study in small groups. And this all happened without and it was from people all over the world. Literally, we had people watching from Ireland and China and all these places. And literally people who were watching that were saying, yo, I cannot let anybody I'm talking about this, because I will get condemned from my family.
Wow.
I will be condemned from my family, and I can be actually for different things like that. And we had all these people coming and yearning after God together. And then eventually, after that ran its course, people say, well, did those things fail? No. God started rising up and opening the doors for music and turning this into worship And now we're in this like era right now where we felt called to conference, and a conference which we have coming up here in the next couple of weeks. And so now we're just praising God with worship and music and doing our first conference. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing, but the funny thing is the guy we're following, the God we're following, knows everything and anything and everything in this area. So all we have to do is know how to follow. And so that's the current state of Jaywalkers, is we're just a collective of people who are yearning after Christ, who are trying our best to sing music and listen to that and do whatever it takes to get there.
Dude, come on, man. It's so cool to see how God has just taken the small faith to start it, and what he's done through consistent, steadfast faith through the process. We're recording this episode on September 14th, 2023. I cannot wait to go back and look at this. And be like, dude, God, what has God done through Jaywalkers?
What season are we going to be in next?
You know what I mean? How cool is that? So that's amazing, dude. I want to continue to move through your story. Obviously, these are the things that kind of were a big part of your life growing up, and are obviously still relevant. But I want to talk about the introduction of social media into your life, creating content, starting to put out videos, pictures, whatever. How did that even start for you, and why did you start that process of putting yourself out there and creating content?
Well, it was interesting because it didn't happen on purpose. So I have this buddy of mine named Austin. Funny enough, he does like drum videos where like he like throws paint all over the drums, and then he beats on it, and then like the paint splatters up everywhere. And I remember he had a little bit of success, and it started like really growing for him. He's like, dude, you should just go on and like post something, just whatever it is. And I remember the first video that I ever posted on TikTok, and it was actually me, and I was in Honduras, and it was back. I used to do videography for a Christian company, a small background for a Christian company, and so I would like was able to travel around and like be able to see different sites and different things like that. But I remember being at one of the places we were staying at, the hotel, and I just go into the bathroom, and it had cool reverb. And then I started singing this song, right? I sang this song, and it was terrible. It was really bad, but I posted it anyway. And then I was like, I posted it. It did absolutely nothing. And I texted my friend. I'm like, bro, I was like, Austin, I was like, dude, this did absolutely nothing.
It's supposed to be an overnight success.
This sucked. It's supposed to be really good. And he was like, dude, just keep posting, see what happens. And then so I kept posting a few more videos. And then like 10 videos in, I did this. I shot this video with my little brother where he stuck a ruler in the door. And I closed the door. I tried to close the door of the bathroom. And then every time I opened it, the ruler came out. And I tried to close it again, and he slipped the ruler in last second. And that video just blew up to where it just did insane. And I remember like a ton of people saving it as like their top 3 favorite TikTok of like the year or something like that. And I was like, this is so weird. And I got like 10,000 followers off of it. I was like, wow. And then so I kind of got hooked. I was like, this is interesting. I guess there can be a little success in it. So then I started just posting a bunch of random videos, and it did all right. It did like cool. I think I got up to like maybe 100-something thousand. But at the time, I was full-time at this ministry that I was at, still doing videography 4 days a week, traveling twice a month, all over the place. And so I wasn't able to put a ton of time into it. But then a few months after that, or a decent amount of months after that, was when quarantine hit. And as soon as that happened, I said a little bit of this earlier, but as soon as that happened, Noah, Allie, Carol, and Colby started posting more videos. And I was like, ooh, this is exciting. Like, everybody do it. And they started doing really good. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is exciting. It's like my friend group. But we couldn't go see each other. Yeah. So now it's just like over the phone, like me texting everybody. I'd be like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, you guys are doing great. And then they started live streaming and doing really good on that as well. And I was like, dang, I got to figure out how to get over there. Because being together in a body and working together and having the inspiration as a unit is something that's like, it's like, yes, you can be successful by yourself. But it's so much fun doing it together as a team. And so I remember texting Noah, and I was like, bro, like, can I come over for a little bit? And I remember I was like, they were like, yeah, if you don't like go out or something like that for 2 weeks. I was like, done. I'm staying in the house for 2 weeks.
Don't bring us COVID.
Yeah, basically. And so I came over, and I remember sitting here in his room, actually right over there. And I was like, dude, I really want to join you guys. This is so much fun. Because I was a sucker for creativity. Like anything that it had to do with creating any kind of video. I loved videography. I loved all of those things. And I remember just talking to him. He's like, let me see what I could do. And then so I remember,
like Noah.
Yeah. And then I remember like 2 days later, he talks to his dad, and he's like, yeah. He's like, we want to bring you in and start it. And they had already started like recapture management and stuff like that. And I was like, let's do it. And so, dude, we started creating content together, and God was like, all right, now that we have like a decent sized body, let's take this to another level. And then it just started scaling and started growing way more than I honestly could say I ever deserved. And it was like, we just kept working together. The wild thing was the only way it succeeded was if we did it together. That was it. If we tried to do stuff by ourselves, it would suck. It was really bad. So God like put this contingency in place. He's like, yo, this will work as long as you do it together. And I remember just being in the middle of that and being like, wow, this is wild. I'm growing my own platform, right? I'm growing my exposure. I'm growing my stuff. And then God was like, hey, this isn't yours, by the way. He's like, this isn't yours. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, this could be your like, I think it's your success or your demise. I think that's the right word. I'm not sure. Don't take my word for it. But he started telling me that, and I was like, oh, okay. None of this is mine. That's the heart. None of this is mine. And he started making sure that no matter what, I still to this day heart check myself. I call them heart checks. I remember sitting on that bench from the first day I decided to start saying, God, if this was taken away all today, would I be fine? Yes. The answer is yes. He could take everything from me right now, and I would be 1,000% fine. And I tell myself that all the time. And so that was how I stepped into this thing. And to this day, it has been grow a platform so that you can spread the word of God. Because a lot of times people start in this and they start growing, and mine's not even big like that. Like it's all right, but it's not like some of the people that you've seen. But a lot of times people grow to a certain point and they're like, ooh, well, if I say something about God, it could get me canceled. So, I'm going to water it down. I'm going to water it down a little bit.
Come on.
And they'll still get the point, right? And so God, from the very beginning, and I can confidently say this, he never was like, post this specific preaching video or post this specific thing. I just want you to post what it's like to live a life of Christ and be clean and be fun and keep doing that. And people are like, well, you're just saying that. I was like, yeah, well, you can think that, but no, that's genuinely what I feel. Is just this is what a life with Christ looks like without all we could still have fun as Christians, because there's such a negative connotation of Christians can't have any fun. So just what, 4 things that you can't do as Christians? Like sex before marriage, drugs, drinking, anything that puts you out of your mind, a little bit of that. Bro, you can do mostly everything else, right?
That's right.
And so I finally felt, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, God was like, all right, now it's time to start turning and start posting stuff that heavily has to do with me. And so I am so excited. I am so excited because we are going to start posting a lot more preaching and a lot more ministering and a lot more things. It's almost like now that the relationship is there, man, just let her rip and you'll be fine. And so why I build social media, why I do this is not for me. It's for God. Honestly, I'm going to be bold right now and speak against anybody who is like, oh, I don't get on TikTok because it's of the world. I don't get on Facebook because there's bad stuff on there. I don't get on Instagram because all of this. Let me tell you something. That is the most shallow-minded thing you could ever have. That is the most shallow-minded mindset. Think about this. And here's why I'm being so forceful about this, because there's a lot of people who didn't get on TikTok because, oh, it's a little dancing thing. There's a lot of trash on there. No dip. It's the world. The world has evil in it, but you still go out into the world. Think about it.
It's good.
You still go out into the world. You're not like, oh my gosh, the evil's out into the world. I'm not going out into the world. No, you're going out there because that's who needs to be saved. If I'm going, oh man, I don't want to go on TikTok because there's bad things on there. No dip. It's the world, which means it needs to be reached. It's a tool to be used. If everybody's watching TikTok right now and I'm not taking what God has put inside of me and spreaded it, use this tool to spread it out to the world on TikTok to get it in front of the eyes of the people that need it, I'm just being selfish.
Sure.
I'm for my self-righteousness. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get dirty. I don't want to dirty my robes with TikTok because there's bad people on it. Yeah, those are the people that need it. It is a tool to be used. And how about this? If that still doesn't make sense to you, money. Can you do good stuff with money?
Of course.
Can you do bad stuff with money?
Absolutely.
Do you still use money?
Every day.
Exactly. You can do good stuff with TikTok.
It's a tool.
You could do bad stuff with TikTok, but we still use it because it's a tool. It depends on how you use it. And if God's directed you and has a word for you, and you literally have something powerful that is built up inside of you, it burns inside of you like a fire, that you have a cell phone, that you have a word that somebody needs to hear, and you can reach millions of people by literally filming this in 30 seconds and pressing a button on your phone. When Paul and everybody used to have to travel weeks and months to get one word to one church, now we can reach millions of people by pressing a button, and you don't want to do it because there's bad stuff on there?
Wow.
I'm sorry. I got a little over.
It's good, bro. So anyway. One of the biggest things, like, I have so much respect for you. I have so much respect for just the entire community here and the type and style of content they put out. Obviously, your faith is a big part of it. But you're not preaching every single day in every single video. And I'm not saying that's bad. For some people that are called to, I think it's amazing. And it sounds like you're getting called to step into that. But just the fact that you can still be a Christian, your faith and your identity in Christ is who you are. It doesn't have to be like, you can still do other things, but that's just a part of who you are. And so that's going to come out in different ways, whether it's deliberately you sharing the gospel and talking about Jesus himself, or you're just living with the Holy Spirit inside of you. And so that's been one of the coolest things that I've enjoyed seeing, not just you, but everyone here, and the type of content and the way that God's been able to use that and reach people. It's been so cool.
Dude, this is something that I told somebody the other day. Following Christ, right, and being a Christian is not something that I carry. It is not something that I carry with me. It's not something that I put on. It's not something that I'm just like stepping into every once in a while. It is a part of my DNA. What happens when something is a part of your DNA? You can't get rid of it. You can't tear it apart. If I touch something right there, if I touch something or something like that, the FBI can come and be like, oh yeah, that's Austin. That was Austin right there. We ran him up with the database. That wasn't even anything. All of this, if I drink your drink, somebody can come by and be like, oh yeah, Austin, I dusted that one off. Austin drank some of that, right? That's because it's a part of your identity. You can't get rid of it. Everything you touch, it's left on it. If Jesus is something you carry around, or it's a shirt, a fun shirt, this is my like Gucci that I put on. This is my thing that I wear on Sunday. It's the nice that only like when people see it, I'm living life for other people, right? There's a lot of things. Honestly, I learned a lot of this from wearing Jordans. And here's what I mean. People say, oh my gosh, you're creasing your Jordans. I'm like, you're not? I'm using mine. I'm wearing my comfy shoes because I like my comfy shoes. I'm not wearing them for you. Yeah. I don't care what they look like on the outside like that. I'm wearing them because I enjoy them. That's who I am.
That's good.
Right? That's who I am as a person. It's a part of my DNA. You can't remove it from me. When I got Jesus inside me, when it's a part of your DNA, I'm going to touch you. That means Jesus ain't coming off of you. It's installed in you. It's overflowing inside of you. It's a part of who you are. You need to make Jesus and your relationship a part of your DNA to where it just doesn't move. It is immovable.
Come on, bro. That's so good, man. I want to talk to you because you bring up some really, you have great perspective where you're sitting in this current moment, and you're able to look back at when you started social media to where you are now, and you've learned so much. But even like different trends that have gone well, like the hat trend, for example. That's one I'm sure, I don't know if you're comfortable speaking about. It's crazy because I remember seeing those videos. But my question for you is, I mean, I would love for you to talk on that particular trend and like what sparked it and what that's done in your life. But how has your perspective changed on the magnitude and the power of social media? Because of, you know, just the virality of the nature of the platform and like what can come from, you know, a video going crazy and that reach you could potentially have as a
Oh, I
creator.
got you. Okay. Our battery is exhausted here. Before we go any further, let me change this out.
All right, sick.
Haha.
All right. Back to business.
Back to business. Change the battery.
Let's go. Do you want me to just re-ask that question?
Yes.
Or do you want me to, okay, perfect. So it's so cool to see, obviously, when you got into social media to where you are now, you can look back and there's just so much perspective you've gained, so much you've learned in that process. But there have been certain trends or pieces of content that have obviously gone viral, such as your hat trend that just absolutely exploded and took over the internet. That's one of the first times I ever saw you.
Whoa,
Bro,
really?
I swear, on my For You page, I was like, who is this guy flipping his hat around? I'm sure many people listening know the trend. I mean, it was viral worldwide. In fact, this is a kind of a quick little funny story that I'll share. We were in Israel earlier this year, and I remember, bro, and that trip in itself is a whole nother topic, but like it was an amazing way that God worked there. But I remember kids coming up to you in Israel and saying, "You're the hat guy. You're the hat guy," and just the impact. And that goes directly into my question. Did you realize, or where did you realize that social media truly has this power of just massive worldwide, almost exponential impact, where you can put out a video and literally reach and get in front of the entire world?
It was really weird. It was really weird and really interesting. I think it was the first time that I guess I saw, like you said, it was the first time I saw what was possible with I guess it's not, let me see if I can figure out how to say this. I saw what was possible with the right amount, like the right amount of intentionality, which the right amount of intentionality does not have to be like, it doesn't have to be massive feats of strength or massive equations or massive videos. It just has to be the right amount of different things. And I honestly took a lot from that video or those videos, because it made me realize what a little bit of intentionality or the right amount of intentionality in somebody else's life can make, how big of an impact. Because those videos were like it was something stupid. That's just how I put my hat on ever since I was little. Like I literally did it right before we were on here. It's just because I have so much hair. It was like how I put it on. And then it was just right moment, right time made maximum impact. And I remember thinking, wow, imagine if I'm at right moment, right time with God. Maximum impact, what that can do, right? And some small little video just like, bro, blew up. And I was like, there's no way this is actually a thing. What kind of impact we can make for God with this? It's almost like God was like, this is what's possible, as like, this is what the tool's capable of.
Wow. Now
use this tool for me. And it just got me so excited to be able to keep creating and re-inspired of what's possible and what's actually there. Because a lot of people are just minor tweaks away from success, minor tweaks away from like maximum impact, but they give up. And when they have failures, they're like, oh, well, this isn't going to work anymore. I might as well give up. When in reality, it's just like God saying, oh, pivot a little bit, change this, change that. Get like, God is in those details. He's in those little tiny things. And so, yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things that stuck out to me is like the right intentionality. It doesn't have to be crazy amounts of effort. It just needs to be the right amount and where God wants you to be.
So good, man. I love that. I want to talk to you about, that's a ton of, you know, your career in social media started primarily you making TikTok videos, and obviously I'm sure you were posting on Instagram, but this whole, just the start of you posting on YouTube and going to long form content, which is, for people listening, I'm sure they have like a surface level understanding of the difference, but like that's a whole different brain power. That's a whole different creative like process. What was that kind of like, and how have you been called to and passionate about like sharing your life in a, I guess, a more detailed, more vulnerable way where they're getting to know you a lot more than just, a shorter video. What has that been like for you?
I think I learned one of the biggest things, and to just kind of shortcut this whole thing, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from YouTube was that, at least for a life like that we have, because Allie and I, or because people were following like Allie and I's relationship, and we were doing like the YouTube vlogs and all of those different things, what we learned was people respected the fun stuff because we gave them like the whole story. It wasn't just, yo, this is us having fun. It was, these are the arguments we were having. This is how we resolved it. And then this is us having fun. Because a lot of times people see the glamorous things and they're like, oh my gosh, these people never fight. These people never do anything. When in reality, there's so many miscommunications that come through. But then nobody talks about them because they feel awkward about them. And Allie and I were like, you know what? As long as there's a resolution to this, there's nothing to be ashamed of. If we're in an argument, right? Because we've literally been on screen and we've like been arguing, and then we'll actually resolve it on screen, because it's like, all right, these are the steps that I've been through. These are the steps that I've gone through. And so not being like, don't be shy with something that you've beat. If it's something that you're still struggling with, and you're like, you never beat it and you keep letting it get a hold of you, then I can see where you're like, well, this is something I want to hold on to, whatever it is. But if you've gone through like a pornography addiction and you beat it, be like, yo, I beat that. Here's how to beat it. Right? If you've gone through like different things, different addictions that you've been through, whatever that is, as long walk through it with people. People respect you even more for those things than they would just saying, oh yeah, I never had an addiction like that. I never did this. I never did that. Because it's not about living a perfect life. It's more of like, just show them what's real. Show people what's real. And like, God will bless it. Integrity is such an important thing on there. And I can honestly say that everything that we've put out, even videos that we've been like, yeah, we should probably delete that because it doesn't stand for what we believe in. Like we need to make sure that everything we put out is right and upstanding with God.
So good, bro. And it's really cool because I don't know if people look at it this way, at least I'm sure some do, but the way I look at it is like, yes, there's a lot of people out there. They're like, man, I wish I could be a YouTuber. I wish I could be famous on TikTok, whatever. But there's a level of service that you and Allie and the rest of the people here are committing to obviously never be perfect, but to like do what God's called you to and expose your life in a way that's vulnerable, but also with the intention of trying to help people at the same time. And I think there's a dynamic that I just want people to like realize and have a better understanding of. Like, you are taking a lot of time out of your life in this season to do your best job, and it's not your whole life, but it's a part of your life to share what God's doing in this current time. And that's an act of service. That's an act of you being obedient to what God's called you to. But there are millions of people around the world that are getting to benefit from that obedience and that servanthood to sharing that content with the world, which is pretty special.
Dude, honestly, glory to God. I'd rather somebody be seeing those videos because it does take a lot of work, but in the end, to see the people that, like, I go through and read most all the comments, to see the people that have been blessed by it and that have been inspired by the different things and the different stuff that like God has said through us, it makes it all worth it.
For sure.
So I'll go through whatever lengths it takes to get those things out.
That's awesome. And the other cool part about it is there's obviously this massive impact that it's having positively on people, but the documentation of the content, you guys are going to be able to go look back on that.
I know.
How cool is that?
I thought about that. Like, even if, like, say potentially Allie and I got married or something like that.
Potentially,
you know what I mean? Whatever, you know.
Any insight? You want to share anything on the podcast?
I really want to do it. Waiting on God's timing. But dude, I thought you put it out. The podcast title: Austin and Allie getting married.
Austin announces engagement day. That'd be crazy.
Oh my gosh, I think I might have lost my train of
Just
thought.
document this process for you to then go back and look and
Yes.
this is all recorded. We can have fun and enjoy
I
it.
know. I thought about how cool it would be like for your kids to go back and look at those things, because I wish that I've asked my parents, like, do you guys have any kind of videos from when you guys were younger and different things? So it is really cool to do. So if anybody's wondering on if you should start, if anything, like if your heart is for people, it'll succeed. If your heart is for people, it'll succeed. If your heart is for money, it's going to fail. You might have a little bit of success in it, but longevity, it's not going to last. It's not going to stand the distance. So go into it. If your heart is at all for people, go into it. Just document a little bit of your life, and then like pray for people and ask people how they're doing. Write it in the comments, whatever it is. I would definitely inspire you to do that, because you might be impacting, even if you impact one person, you said, who was in the comments and were like, yo, this changed my life. That's a win. That is an incredible win.
I love that. And I think too, it's cool to see, one, to capture the memory in the moment and look back and be like, man, that was such a good moment that we had together, that experience. But also to look back and see the progress that you've personally made. Like just to see the growth that you've had from where you started to where you are now, and to see the way God's worked in different ways in your life and matured you and grew you into the person that you're constantly becoming. I think that's pretty cool too.
Dude, glory to God, man. Glory to God. 'Cause, I mean, that's the only thing I desire. Like, I genuinely just desire growing.
Yeah.
I've kind of gotten to a place. I don't know if it's a scary place or not, but I've gotten to a place where I don't care if the answer is a yes or a no. I used to have a preference. Like, I used to be like, God, please make this like the trip that I go on. Please make this the calling that I have on my life. I've gotten so focused on just moving that I'm like, God, yes or no. Give me either. Give me either of them. I'm more concerned about if I'm standing still. If I'm standing still trying to choose an answer, I'd rather be moving and like just going forward. Yes or no. Just give me it. I don't care what the answer is. Just give me the right one, and I will move forward. And I think that pulls out a lot, and it gets a lot of distractions out of the way. Because I'm not like swayed by money. I'm not swayed by exposure. I'm not swayed by anything. I'm not like, oh, like this can get me on TV and everybody's gonna know my name. What the heck's that gonna do for anybody? It's more just like, no, is this right? No? All right. Is this right? Okay, cool. Losing everything else? Got it. I'll go live in a 1-bedroom house, whatever that looks like. I don't care. But I know this is where I'm supposed to be. I'd rather know exactly where I'm supposed to be than to feel kind of lost and like had everything that I wanted.
For sure, man. No, I love that. And that's such a good heart posture to have. And I think, hopefully people listening to this can just be encouraged by that, knowing that like, look, as long as God's in it, you're in good shape. That's literally, you can boil it down to that. And man, this has been such a fun episode. Honestly, bro, you're the kind of guy, dude, I could sit here and talk to you for endless hours. Like
it has been endless hours. How long we've been doing this thing?
We could be rolling this thing forever. But I like, on all seriousness, dude, I'm so thankful for you as a brother, as family forever, and just the person you are, man. You've made such a deep impact on me. Even obviously building our friendship over the last however long, when I met you, and I guess over 2 years ago now, but in this particular season of getting a chance to live in the house with you, man, it's been crazy. But I'm just so thankful for you, bro. And I'm so thankful for your heart and just the fact that you come on here and share your story and the things that you've been through with our community. And hey, man, it's really, really special, man.
Dude, I honestly appreciate it. And to tell you this as well, it has been a major honor getting to know you as well as a person. I remember when you first came in, when Doug first came in the house, I was like, oh gosh, dang it. Try not to, like, when I see somebody that I like and my spirit's just like, yeah, go ahead, trust them. My brain says, don't trust too fast. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to mess up. I don't want to place my trust somewhere and then like the trust be broken and stuff. So I automatically was like, my body was like, trust Doug, and just like let him in. And I was like, no, stop. Like, don't trust Doug too fast. But genuinely, since you came in, it has been a massive pleasure. I've learned a lot from you with your lifestyle, your dedication, the way you respect your temple, your body, and work through things, and your consistency in things. It is a very, very, like, I aspire to be like that, because you have a lot of areas that you are succeeding in your life that I am working on. And so I look up to that a whole lot. And if anybody's wondering whether or not this is something that you guys want to follow or like invest your time into or listen to more, he has dedicated time. He has dedicated a lot of hours. He has dedicated a lot of just honorable intentionality into this. And I know this is exciting because I know everything that you touch. And I think we talked about this a little while ago.
You did. You were telling me about this.
Talked about it a little while ago that I know that everything that you touch is going to turn to gold as long as you keep pushing, keep praying, just like Joseph, and keep that dedication. And one of the wild things about Joseph is his story. It said everything he touched turned to gold, but he also was in a pit. He was also beaten. He was also in a prison. He was also there as he was forgotten. He was in all these places, but in exactly where God wanted him to be, in perfect will, and so that place, regardless of the answer, regardless of what your aim looks like or Kaisos looks like, regardless of what that looks like, as long as you focus and make sure you know where you are supposed to be, that is where your peace is at. You should be chasing peace and not chasing success.
It's good.
If you chase peace, success will be a byproduct.
I love that, bro.
It'll be a byproduct of it. So do not chase that exposure or that success. Chase that peace that you are in you are aligned. And byproduct, finances, all of those things that'll just be a byproduct of everything that you do.
Come on, bro. That's so good. And one thing, guys, another really good podcast to listen to is Ali Shnacky's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You were on that recently.
Ali is amazing.
Amazing. And one of the things you guys talked about that I think is relevant here is just that God can make a way so great that only he can get the credit for this. Whether it be with this show, with this podcast, with your life, with my life, with the people listening, their lives. Pray that God does something in your life and makes a way, and that you're obedient to the calling that he has for you that is so great that only he can get the credit. That you can take zero credit for what he's doing. And that's my prayer for my own life, for this podcast, for the businesses I'm involved in, for your life, for Jaywalkers, all the things that we touch. That God is so big and so great in it that only he can get glory for it. 100%. And then when the people look at it, all they see is him.
Dude, 100%. That we are 100% glory reflectors. Like, that is all that we see. Like, we're built like mirrors, bro. Like, when people look at us, all they see is Christ. That is it. Honestly, I hit this point where I know we got to go in a second. It's getting late. But I hit this point where I was like, man, back me into a corner. Like, back me into a corner where there's no way out. So that when something miraculous happens, there's no, oh, it was this, oh, it was that. It was like, nope, that was God. That was 100% him. There was no question about that. But the crazy part about that is you have to have that like mentality of trust him, no matter how stressful, no matter how it looks like there is no way out. Trust him with your life to that end. And he's going to make a way when there was no way. Even this verse popped up in my head. A story about Peter. When Peter was locked up in the jail at night, all of a sudden, he's in chains. All of a sudden, angel comes, unlocks the door, takes him out of the chains, walks him out past the guards, out into the city streets. And then the guards had no idea what happened. Peter literally became invisible. And there was no way out of that situation physically. No, there was no blocks loose at the back of the cage or the back of the cell or whatever it was. It was like no questions asked. God did it. And I want, exactly like you, I want my life to be no questions asked. I don't know how I got here. I want to just show up and be like, whoa, look what God did. This was none of me. All I was doing was listening and being a vessel. All I need to know is how to follow.
So good, man. And it's not even about having a following or to have this much money or this much success. It's just about that, like, God is so in it that when they see it, they're like, there's no question.
No question.
No question.
No question.
Dude, you're the man. Absolutely love you, bro. You're so amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast. Man. Where can people find you? I know probably most of the people listening to this probably already follow you, but like, where can people engage with you, follow you, be a part of your journey, and support you?
All over social media at Austin T. Armstrong. I'm pretty sure you just type that in. I'll probably show up at some point.
You'll show up.
I hope so. If not, well, catch you later.
Let's go. Austin, thank you so much, man. This has been a blast.
Thank you so much for having me on this, bro.
Absolutely.